Right. This time I will call the February 13th, 2023 meeting to order. Welcome to everybody in attendance. Thank you for being here. This time we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. We've got the honored educator scholarship presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Brock Womble, who is the Executive Director of the North Carolina Center for the Advancement of Teaching, for this special recognition.
Thank you very much. Is this where you want me to stand?
Wherever you want to stand, sir.
First of all, board members, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight. And thank you, Superintendent Green. Really appreciate all your support of NCAD and all that you do in education. It's a true honor to be here tonight, to be recognized as someone that's a friend, a colleague, someone I got advice from, half of which I probably didn't take, probably a good thing. So, but you know, somebody I truly admire. And I admire because it's always what's best for the students in Polk County and for students all around. And he's taught me that, and I've learned and watched from a distance and always been admired his leadership and who he was as a person. And so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here. And it's been, I guess, 17 years since I've really known both these people here. And so it's been a pleasure. And really, after he announced his retirement, one of the things I immediately did was try to get him to work for NCAD. He helped us out in NCAD for a while, and very thankful for his service there, and did a tremendous job. And just as an educator, always has been, always will be, and always does what's best for everybody and for kids. So let me do my formal remarks. After we have a couple people who will speak afterwards, and then we'll ask Mr. Miller if he wants to say a couple words, and we'll at that time give him the plaque that we have, and then we'll go upstairs, I guess, afterwards. But NCAD's Honored Educator Scholarship Program provides an opportunity to pay tribute to outstanding individuals and educators by establishing scholarship funds in their names. Scholarships are created to honor classroom teachers, coaches, administrators, school board members, or community volunteers, anyone who has made a positive difference in the field of education. An endowment of $25,000 is needed to fully fund a scholarship. Each fully endowed scholarship is awarded annually to a North Carolina teacher. Scholarships funds cover program costs and it provides recipients with a $250 cash award for a classroom project and substitute costs and travel. Many donors choose to establish a scholarship that gives preference to the recipients from a specific geographic area or academic discipline. NCAD administers the awarding of each scholarship with careful adherence to the donor's direction through a scholarship application each year. The William J. Miller Honored Education Scholarship was jointly established by the Stewart and Margaret L. Forbes Foundation and the Ann L. Turner and Jeffrey M. Tennant Foundation. And I'd like to thank the board members of both foundations for the dedication and commitment to the teaching profession. This scholarship has been created to honor Mr. Bill Miller, who retired a distinguished career after a distinguished career in Polk County Schools as a teacher, coach, principal, administrator, and superintendent. Mr. Miller served more than 30 years in Polk County school system. He has spent his time on the men's basketball staff at Wingate before beginning a teaching career as associate teacher and basketball coach at Brown High School. He later worked as a principal at Polk County High School, as the Polk County District Personnel Director and Assistant Superintendent before becoming superintendent in 2004. As a lifelong educator, you may never know the scope of your impact or influence, but as evident by tonight, there's no doubt that you have truly touched on the lives of many in Polk County and will continue to do so with this scholarship. Thank you very much for the honor to be here. Thank you for your friendship, and thank you for what you've done for the students of Polk County Schools. So, I turn it over to now it's Ms. Alice Kenneth. I think
This brings back a few memories. It's good to see everyone. And I want to start by thanking you, Mr. Green, and the Board of Education here for the amazing and enduring work that you do on behalf of students in Polk County. You give your absolute best, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So we really appreciate that. both on a personal level and at the Forbes Foundation. I also want to thank NCAT for supporting respite and extraordinary opportunities, professional development for our teachers. Our partnership with NCAT goes back many years, and we really appreciate the work that you do. So, to the reason that we're here, Mr. Miller. First of all, I want to thank Alice Tennant for allowing Forbes to partner with the Turner Tennant Foundation to award this scholarship, this honorary scholarship, to honor the tremendous educational career of Bill Miller. It's a privilege for us to work with Turner Tennant to partner in this, in Bill's name at NCAT. I worked alongside Bill many years ago. We won't get into how many. 4 years. He was and always will be a tireless advocate for Polk County students, whether it be instruction, art, sports, health, safety, well-being, good nutrition, whatever. Bill took it every single day to the highest possible level for students and also for staff. As most of you know who know Bill, especially you, Valerie, he can get just a little bit hyper at times, a little bit jittery at times, but he was always laser focused on students and meeting their needs. He's been an extraordinary leader for our schools, and while his impact on our families, students, and schools cannot be measured, he also recognizes the essential role of teachers and their teacher development. He knows that schools and teachers are endlessly intertwined. The quality of our schools is only as good as our teachers and really all of our staff members. So through the Turner Tennant and the Forbes Foundation Award, the NCAT honor in your name, Bill, is to appreciate teachers who you always supported and encouraged to be all they could possibly be for their students, and to show gratitude for the amazing impact you've had here. Well done all the way around, Mr. Miller. Polk County children, families, citizens, and staff are all indebted to you for your leadership, your tireless energy, and your devotion to success for every single student in Polk County. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I am not a speaker. Bill knows, so that was the other tenant that could speak about anything and everything. But the Turner Tennant Foundation has always tried to support the students of Polk County. And I don't think anybody represents that better than Bill Miller. He has done so much for this community and for the school. I don't know where to begin to even start saying what he has meant to us as a family, as a foundation, as the school, to the community. But needless to say, there's one of a kind, and we're glad that he's here with us. So we look forward to seeing him some. I don't know where he's going to be after he's retired, but I hope he'll be, just as involved as he possibly can, because we really appreciate everything he's done. And we thank all of you for everything that you have done to keep the schools the really good school that it is. And it's a good place to live, to learn, to play. Can't do better than Polk County. So thank you, Bill. I know this is a big honor, and you're well deserved. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Anything you want to say?
Next.
Oh, man. Well, it's very humbling for me. It's been a great reward in my life to be associated with these four institutions, from Polk County Schools to Tennant Turner to the Forbes Foundation and now the North Carolina Center for Advancement of Teaching. It's been just a great experience for me. I hope in some measure I've giving back what they've given to me. Because it's been a great experience on my part to be involved in these places. So thank you very much. And I really do appreciate it and hope this will go to serve teachers for a while. A beginning teacher, I think is what Mr. Green and I talked about, our beginning teacher of the year in Polk County Schools every year. We receive this scholarship and have time at NCAT, which I know will be, having worked at NCAT, I know the experience there for teachers is really high. And it's a great week for them and really helps them grow, I think. So thank you, Dr. Wong. Appreciate it. And to everyone involved, thank you very much.
Let them stand beside you.
There's somebody there.
It may take me a while. Y'all are doing really well. I'm good.
Okay, she's gonna put them on the website, so.
Uh-oh.
It's the right profile.
Thank you.
Green is turn over to you.
Dr. Wong, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, it's a bit ceremonial. I don't think any action on the board's part is required. But I would love for our board to take action and to say that we will make sure that we allow the beginning teacher that is chosen for this to attend NCAT, to have a leave time from work, and that our board supports this honorary scholarship with NCAT. So I think that would be appropriate at this time to have that motion and adopt that formally as
Absolutely. So moved.
I'll say
I don't think there's any further discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Looking for a motion now to go into recess briefly for a reception.
I'll make a motion. A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, we will go upstairs. The best way to do that is, if you don't want to walk up steps, is to go back down the hall to the elevator. We'll take you up the steps and go all the way to the end of the hallway. We'll get some steps in before you have some food. We really appreciate you guys being here to honor Mr. Miller. He's an outstanding individual. Let's all go enjoy.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. That being said, we'll move to the approval of the January 9th board minutes. I'm aware of one correction that we need to make, and we discussed the MOU. We need to make that read for the safety components of the MOU and not just MOU itself. Any other corrections that we're aware of for the minutes?
They be approved.
Motion have a second.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on under instructional, the first item we have here is the Janice Anderson Brumley Educational Grant Recipient.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That'll be me. Ms. Dill is not around today. She is a little under the weather, so I told her I'll be glad to take over. And Ms. Crump, I don't know if you can take a picture
Oh, sure.
as we, or somebody can. Ms. Hammond can do it, or you can do it either one.
No, I
You can stand right there while I read it. It's okay.
Okay.
Good.
No,
Ken Brumley and the family of Janice Anderson Brumley have established the Janice Anderson Brumley Educational Grant Fund in loving memory of their wife and mother. Janice taught in Polk County for over 30 years and was dearly loved by her students. Her goal was to be the best educator she could possibly be, and she knew that she could only achieve this by continually educating herself. Over the years, Janice attended state and national education conferences and earned her master's degree and national board certification. Throughout her teaching career, Janice donated her time and money to these endeavors, but she was also the beneficiary of various grants and awards that helped her reach her goal. This grant fund will award up to $1,000 each year to educators who also share Janice's goal of being the best educator they can possibly be. The 2023 Janice Anderson Brumley Educational Grant recipient is Kimberly Benson from Polk County Middle School. Congratulations to you, Kimberly Benson. With these funds, Kimberly plans to attend the Midwest Clinic International Band and Orchestra Conference, the largest and most prestigious conference for music educators in the United States, and that'll be in December of 23. And again, we want to say a special thank you to the family of Janice Anderson Brumley for establishing this fund for Polk County educators. And Kimberly, on behalf of our Board of Education, all of us at Polk County Schools, congratulations to you. Good job. If you'll hold that certificate right there.
Awesome. 1, 2, 3. Gotcha.
And you can make any remarks you like, or you could hit the door. It's up to you.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to meet you all. I've seen you all on TV. I'm gonna go home now because we had all district band, so I had a 6-day week this week, and I haven't seen my daughter, but for the Super Bowl yesterday, so I'm going home to see her. But thank you all very much for all you do, and I appreciate this recognition. So thank you.
Before Ms. Benson takes off, I do want to say she has done an outstanding job with our middle school band program since COVID came and kind of impacted some of those types of groups. She's done a great job rebuilding our band. I went to the December the concert to hear the difference in those kids from when they started this year to that concert was incredible. So thank you for all
Yeah,
your hard
well,
work.
thank you for being there. I've been teaching this is 16 years now. It's the first time I've had a superintendent at a concert, and a lot of times I came from Buncombe County, and a lot of times I didn't even have a principal there. So the support top down has been really awesome here. So very happy to be here, and thank y'all again for all y'all do. So
Thank you,
all
Karen.
right,
Thank you.
Moving on under instructional, we have the 2022-2023 fall semester update. Ms. Jane Crump.
All right, good evening. As always, it's a pleasure to meet with you and let you know what's going on in our classrooms. As you know, we just completed our middle of the year assessments. It's hard to believe that we are already there, but we certainly have in the elementary world. So kindergarten, first, second, and third, what I presented to you, the first one is just our completion report. The state wants us to have at least a 95% participation with our state testing. And as you can see, all of our schools well exceeded that. So we are always pleased with our participation at each school level. So they've done a great job. The next report is comparing populations. And this is our Dibbles 8 M-Class Amplify program that we use. And what I have printed for you is a comparison of the beginning of the year data to the middle of the year. So as you can see up at the top, they have, you can see the colors and what they mean. So red is well below, yellow is below, green is at benchmark, and blue is above benchmark. So what you want to do is at the beginning of the year, you expect to see a lot of red, a lot of yellow. Obviously, as the year continues, you want to see those colors turn more towards green and blue. So as you're looking down at the report, you're comparing the BOY to the MOY. And you can see consistently down through there that we are seeing good growth at this time with our kindergarten through third grade students. And so we are excited about this. What you'll find at the beginning of the year, we work a lot on blending sounds and words and trying to be fluent with patterns, that type of thing, as taught at the elementary level. And by the middle of the year, we're putting what they have learned into context, you know, like how to read it in a sentence or how to make sense, working on comprehension and with what you're reading. So we're seeing good growth. We're pleased with what we are seeing. And as you know, I like to reference that grade 3. This was the grade that was in kindergarten when the pandemic hit. So it's just kind of interesting, you know, if you want to kind of keep up with tracking that group of students, it's interesting to note. And then the last report I prepared for you was the comparing measures. Without getting too technical, this goes into the individual measures that we use to measure the students' progress. So like the phonemic awareness, letter sounds, their word decoding, vocabulary, spelling, all of those little individual pieces that we use. So anywhere you see diagonal lines, that means a particular subject or area was not assessed. And so we're pleased. Right now, we're doing a lot of things at the elementary level. You may hear a program called Hegarty that they're using, and that's really building a lot of the phonemic awareness taking place in our kindergarten age group. And we're just extremely pleased with the fact that our teachers seem to be in the groove. We're back going up since the pandemic, and we're starting to see some interaction increase with our students. So we're pleased with that so far. Any questions you have?
Yeah, actually, I do have one. I had a parent ask me about the Haggertys. Can you explain that to me? Is that something that's new with our schools this year?
So actually, we used it some last year, and we're actually exploring a meeting with Kathy to talk about possibly doing some work with our preschool even next year with Hegarty as well. But it's basically it's just deals with phonemic awareness and sounds, and it just takes a few minutes out of each day that the teachers expose them to these little rhymes and different things that they do with the students, and they love it. So the engagement's been great, and all 4 of our elementary schools are now using that.
That was my next question. Okay.
Yes, they are.
Any other questions for Ms. Crump?
So that's something that's just been employed the last year?
Yes.
2 years?
Yes. And phonemic awareness is what is the one area where we're seeing the biggest gains from with using Hegarty. Now, obviously, our letters instruction that all of our teachers are going through, letters in the new Science of Reading Initiative, all has to do with making a shift in the way that we teach reading to students. And so you're going to see different gains in different areas, but that phonemic awareness piece, our preschool children need to know how to rhyme. They need to be able to hear those sounds long before you put letter recognition with them and those types of things. So that's kind of the skills that we're trying to build in those students early on.
Just as a clarification, we've used in a couple of schools, we've had Letterland before. You may have heard Letterland being talked about. It's a similar type of phonemic awareness program, and we've had it work at Gillingham in our other schools, which is another very intense, phonemic awareness type program. I think what Hegarty does is it kind of universalizes everything. Everybody can be consistent in that, and it seems to be showing some pretty good gains there. Might be a little easier for the kids and the teachers to access. It's maybe not as intense as a program like we're at Gillingham. So if we'll get the same gains out of it, I think it's been pretty well received. We heard it talked about in our mid-year improvement meeting.
Yeah. So we're pleased.
Other questions, Ms. Crump? Well, thank you, Ms. Crump. We will then move right back to you again with the summer learning program.
Right. So it's hard to believe that we're already talking about summer programs, but those will be around the corner, as you know, as well. So I just listed for you the 3 opportunities that will be taking place in our county. Elementary will run just as we did last year. We are going to offer the program kindergarten through 5th grade because we feel like we would like to. We're not required by the state to offer it to all of our grade levels. We are required to offer it to 2nd and 3rd grade, but we like to go ahead and include the rest of them because we do feel like that's beneficial to our students. We will house it again at the middle school location, and you can see the dates that are there. And simultaneously, we'll be running the middle school summer offerings at that same time. And they're going to be working on 6th and 7th grade reading and math instruction during their summer school opportunity. And then one of our PRCs will be working with the high school construction department, and they're going to be looking to actually hire and pay a couple of our students out of one of our PRCs to help do some projects around the high school. So we're excited. They'll be on the job training with our construction teacher, learning some of those skills. And so we're excited and hope to find some students that are eager to participate in that this summer as well. So that's what will be happening in just a few months.
This is an actionable item. Are there any questions for us, Small?
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'd like to let Ms. Adrian Hammond say another piece or two.
Sure.
So the action item to the summer learning program is we have to submit our summer testing plan that accompanies the summer learning program. So our plan is to offer EOG testing for grades 3 to 5 in math and reading. And we do not plan to reassess the middle school students. In the plan that you'll be signing later, Mr. Ashford, we went ahead and we submitted a request to be able to test through 8th grade, just in case something changes with our plan. We'll already have it in place. But on the internal side, we don't plan to retest our middle school students because they're participating more in an enrichment program for the summer learning program instead of the in-depth remediation that the grades 3 through 5 will be a part of.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions about the test plan?
All right. Well, thank you very much. Again, this is an actionable item. We'd be looking for a motion on the second for approval. Have a motion, have a second.
A second.
Motion and second. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Green, over to you now with an overnight field trip request.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. This is something I sent you guys via email because we got it in time for them to request. I know it's at the time of this meeting is under our 6-week deadline, but she did have this information as soon as she got the offer from the state. She submitted it to me. I think this is an outstanding opportunity for these young people. It's just 2 young ladies going with Ms. Gilbert to this event, but the types of leadership experiences and exposure they'll have will be tremendous. So in the proposal, you can see these students are the FFA chapter president, Ella Wallman, and the vice president, Maggie McCammon. And so they'll get to go down there and really experience government in their face. And that'll be fun for them. So certainly got an endorsement from Ms. Dean and our administration to check through. Everything seems to be good to go. And we would recommend approval of this particular field trip.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion that we approve the overnight field trip.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. And Mr. Green, back to you again with the Polk County Early College 2023-2024 calendar.
So far be it from me to force the director of the early college to do anything. We wanted to make sure that that it fit into her calendar and her work with ICC to make sure we wanted to move that spring break like we did with our traditional calendar. And so I didn't want to do that prematurely without her checking with her folks on the ICC side. She's done so. And so we're recommending that we move that spring break the same way we did on our traditional calendars to get everybody lined up in Polk County. That's the revision you see here.
Okay. Seems pretty straightforward. What's the pleasure of the board?
A second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on along under administrative, Dr. Schweitz, we have you with policy updates.
So good evening, everyone. Several weeks ago, our board policy subcommittee evaluated another round of policy updates. Luckily, this batch was much shorter. We're able to navigate through them a little bit quicker than we were the last time. I want to highlight a few of the ones of note that came from that policy committee work, and a reminder that all of these tonight will be considered on first reading. So policy 2130 is the school board setting rules on yourselves. And so what that particular policy is aimed at is putting tighter and more specific language around reimbursable expenses. It just, instead of saying, hey, there are simply expenses that can be reimbursed, it goes out and itemizes each one of those and a methodology for how to do that.
They go to bar tabs and spa.
Yeah, those things are not reimbursable items. Yes, you got it. Another item of note, policy 4400, that is our attendance policy. If you'll recall, several months ago, we actually visited this. There was one key piece of this that we needed to update to bring it in line with general statute. Our assembly actually passed some legislation that allows for 2 excused, or as they call them, leave days, for students who have parents that are actively serving in the military and are off on leave, for them to be able to visit their family or have just returned from deployment. So in order for us to bring, I know it seems strange because you just went through policy 4400, but that experienced a legislative shift. I wanted to explain exactly what that was. We've made that adjustment to our policy. And then the final one I wanted to bring to your attention is a new policy around crowdsource funding. Crowdfunding may or may not be something you're familiar with. You may have heard about online platforms out there like Kickstarter or GoFundMe. The idea behind it is that an individual posts a need or a project that they might have, and that if it's valid enough to the people out there worldwide and they see enough value in it, then they can contribute any dollar amount of money they want towards that project. Generally, they have a specific financial aim they're after, a goal they're trying to set, and once that goal is met, they can appropriate those funds. As you can imagine, that becomes an interesting situation when you have school employees essentially going out and seeking crowdsourced funding, representing or acting as a representative of a public school entity. That exposes our school system to a lot of different liabilities if gone unregulated. So this specific policy is actually aimed at putting some bounds around that, tightening those things up. We have had some informal policies addressing this internally for some time now. This puts very formal bounds around how that is done. And specifically, I want to talk about the benchmarks that was set. There is a defined approval process now that allows for anything crowdsource funded up to $2,500 would be principal approval. Anything in excess of that then goes between $2,501 up to $5,000 would be superintendent approval. Anything up to $10,000 would require school board approval when you go in excess of that amount. So we set some markers in place that require some specific guidelines around that crowdsource funding. Those are just a few of the highlights from the items, so welcome to entertain any questions.
The good thing about it is that you have to get all kinds of approvals and all kinds of requirements that have to be met. But what I was going to point out is at the bottom of the policy, you'll see it's highlighted links about a couple of reports that talk about the issues that can arise with crowd.
Yeah.
Sure. It's too media savvy for me. But those are really good for y'all to read before you put it on second reading. I think it'd be smart for the board members to click on those links and read it. I could get one of them, at least top 2. And they gave all the information. You got FERPA issues, you know, you see those pictures on there, all that kind of stuff. So you gotta be careful.
How prevalent has this been? Have there been a lot of Polk County school fundraising projects or?
So we've been very fortunate. We enjoy tremendous support from our county commissioners and local government. So we don't typically have to go out asking for much. But in rare occasions where there are a situation where a teacher may be funding a hyper specific thing they're doing in a classroom, generally they're small amounts, $500 for say a Lego STEM project they're wanting to do for some specific thing. Those kinds of things you might see on occasion. But again, I think this is a needed piece of policy in terms of putting some bounds around those things.
Is this something we'll encourage?
No. I think, Mr. Chair, Mr. Parsons, just to answer, kind of address your question, it started, I think, like popcorn. You'd have one here, one over there. And as it starts to pop a little more, I think Mr. Fagan's right. You need a policy to kind of go over that. And certainly, you know, good intentions can pave the way to different places, correct? So we have to make sure that not only does that principal know what's going on and feel like that's appropriate, sometimes a well-intentioned teacher might write a description that gives too much away, too much information. Or perhaps as that teacher hasn't asked their principal or hasn't asked the central office, do you have money for that? We had one that was asking for a GoFundMe where we had funds sitting in an account. They just hadn't taken the time to ask somebody, hey, give me some help with this. So hopefully this will allow us to be very clear in our communication and process with employees. And I don't necessarily think we need to encourage it. Like Dr. Schweitzer said, we just had a fundraiser this weekend where the community stepped up hugely. And so I want us to make sure we're doing those kinds of things before we get out there and start asking everyday folks to give money to us. Again, I think that's a good reason for this policy and for the guidelines. Mr. Chair, I'll also point out that the policy committee did an outstanding job meeting with Dr. Schweitzer and I and gone through this stuff thoroughly. So certainly if those members of that committee would like to say anything further, they're welcome to do so.
Say that if anybody from the committee willing to comment, please do, but I mean, I thought it was pretty straightforward. Yeah.
I do too.
I mean, we went over it.
Yeah. Jackson, I know you're gonna read, because I know you are, so.
Does it, I didn't go through this one. Does it include like the Amazon wish list that you'll see some classrooms ask for?
Sure. So it tasks us with establishing a vetted list of what we're going to accept as primary counselors funding sites. So just for the sake of this conversation, we could say that GoFundMe is the only one that we're going to permit access to, or we could allow for a list of different groups that they could go through. But as it stands right now, all of that's happening sort of informally through a principal. So this puts those bounds around that. So that's a roundabout way of answering your question, but we haven't established those parameters yet.
I know those have been popular in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and certainly we need to weigh the pros and cons of that too.
Right.
Teacher lists, we could sit here for hours and talk about teacher supply lists and what really needs to be on those. I think, again, good intentions, but we get way overboard sometimes.
I was thinking more along that they've done like the wish list at Christmas where each kid will get a book or something.
Right.
Where you're asked to sponsor.
Yeah, that kind of stuff I completely understand. But asking for things like glue, we can provide glue. You don't need to put down Amazon. So,
And that's the thing those articles discuss is they give you like top 10 educational sites to use if you want to use them.
you certainly wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want to get into a site that's not vetted, and take the money or take some huge percentage of the donations, and some of those sites do that. So you got to be careful with it. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Other questions for Dr. Schweitzer? That being said, we'll be looking for approval of the policy updates on first reading.
I move the policy update be approved on first reading.
I second.
The motion is second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Green, do we have Ms. Lovelace with us for the budget amendment?
She is not. She had an issue with a family member, so she got to go too. It's just taking us all out. But certainly she was nice enough to allow me to present the budget amendment if you're willing to hear from me, sir. If you'll take a look at this budget amendment, you can see it's amendment number 3. In Fund 1, which is our state funds, you'll see some added revenue. That's revisions 31 to 33. That's teacher and principal performance bonuses. Those are back again. If you'll recall, our teachers and principals get bonuses if they achieve growth in their tested areas. And then also we have some developmental day revenue. That's EC funding from the state side that comes in a grant-based form, or it comes on in a requisition where we have an EC student that requires an extra level of care, and we can get some extra funding for those kids. On the next fund will be Fund 3, where you see an amendment number 3, and that is due to IDEA preschool targeted assistance. That's specific funding for IDEA activity in our preschools. It's a very small amount. You'll see that particular amendment, making sure we get things in the right codes and the right classes. On the next one in Fund 4, which is our capital fund, we needed to get those track lottery funds and the prior year carryover on our state bus replacement, get those on the books. And then we reclassed some funding between 5,000 and 9,000 purpose codes to make sure we could spend it the way we needed to. The 5,000 is instructional, the 9,000 is capital. So we're allowed to use some of that money and shift over. The county's been kind enough to give us that flexibility with that extra funding. On the last one, on Fund 8, grants and donations, you'll see that we have some additional revenue in grant funding for NC Pre-K. Our Medicaid claiming checks come in periodically, and so you'll see those be added as well. And then the small schools money that we get or we expend is also reflected in Fund 8. So those are your budget amendments for the time around, Mr. Chair.
Any questions?
I've got one on the bus. The bus is just a pass through, right?
That's correct. That's our lease payments for the bus. And so when we get that money, we have to book it, if you remember, and then we ship it out the door.
That's yeah.
So next month, they'll all be very surprised if we don't have another amendment where you see that taken away instead of added.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't stay on our books long. And why they do that, we can argue all day long. Sure, Mr. Fagan can talk about ownership and liability and what does that really mean? But at the end of the day, that's the way the state wants to do it. Don't
Last
ask.
questions for Mr. Green on the budget amendment. Again, we have an actionable item. We'll be looking for a motion in a second.
I move that we accept the budget amendments as presented.
Motion, do I have a second?
A second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Green, right back to you again with the audit contract.
Yes, sir. We have been with Anderson, Smith and White, and if you'll recall, we do a 3-year rotation on choosing our auditors. We have them submit their proposals and then we choose. I believe we're in year 2 of this, where we do adopt their audit contract every single year. And so this is a standard audit contract that we have with Anderson, Smith and White, and we'd like to go ahead and get it approved so we can work with them in the upcoming fiscal year. Same contract, same prices, same whole shebang.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Move we accept it.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. And Mr. Green, back to you again with the Health and Human Services, SHAC and testing nurse contract.
Mr. Chair, I'll start by saying my apologies. I think this needs to be an action item, and I apologize for not getting on there. I thought we were originally just going to show you or talk to you about the money transfer. So I think at this point, to get it in our coffers, we need to go ahead and have action. So my apologies for not getting that correct. But I'm going to turn the conversation over to Ms. Harding, who can speak more intelligently about all this huge, whatever, 33 pages of stuff. So go ahead, Ms. Harding.
Well, I will try in about 2 minutes to speak to all those pages. Way back when we were swimming in, actually drowning in COVID, I think would be a better word. And DHHS gave us $98,000 to do some, testing, supplies, a mask, all that good stuff. Well, I'm wondering if they had a little extra money left over, because all of a sudden they awarded us an additional $60,000, and that $60,000 was to be used for mental health initiatives. And one of the focuses they suggested would be staff wellness, staff mental health, and then obviously other initiatives in the classroom as well. So there was a little committee that got together, and they decided the 3 areas that we would use the $60,000 for would be, first of all, each school will be given money to do some type of wellness initiative at their school for their staff. And one of the ideas that was thrown around is that maybe in their lounge they had maybe a exercise machine. Some of the schools don't have staff lounges at all. There's no place for the staff to go and just say, okay, I need a 5-minute mental health break. So the schools are using their own ideas to come up with how they would like to use this money, because they know best how they would benefit from that at their own school. The second item is that we sent the school counselors to the state conference in November. As you well know, the budget is tight, and there's not a lot of professional development geared specifically toward the school counselors, who obviously have such an important role in the mental health of our students and staff. So they had the opportunity to go to that state conference in November. And I know I was in a meeting last week with the school nurses and the counselors, and the feedback and the ideas that came from that conference have been very, very valuable already. And then the third thing is that Polk County Middle School, they decided that they would like I keep saying mediation garden. That is not, it is a meditation garden. But probably, maybe that's why mediation keeps coming into my head. But this actually is kind of a neat project, because the students are designing it, and they're designing it and they're going to implement it. So it's a great opportunity for students to come up with their own ideas on how they would like for this to look.
So, Mr. Chair, this ran through our SHAC committee and conversations with Ms. Harding and the counselors and some other staff. We certainly don't want to turn money down. I think these are good initiatives for us to pursue. So we'd be looking for the board to approve that we receive this additional funding that we've been offered.
What would be the pleasure of the board? Department of Proceedings.
Yeah.
Motion and second. Is there anything else to discuss? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0.
Mr. Chair, I will thank you, Ms. Harding. I will clarify that the typical money restrictions are always there in terms of how we go about documenting the use of that money, but we have the flexibility. We don't have any strings attached in terms of exactly, as long as it fits in those categories, our schools and our counselors, people like that can come up with it.
Good deal. Mr. Green, right back to you again for the spring budget workshop.
Well, folks, when would you like to do it?
In spring.
In the spring. So typically we're done with our budget conversations about mid-March. And so would you like me to throw a couple of dates to you guys on email and that you kind of bounce those around and then get back to me on what you feel like would work best, or do we want to set a date right now?
So that comes out in mid-March. We looking at end of March.
Now, what we've typically done is to just go ahead with that March board meeting, which is on the 13th, and I would pull you guys in about 3 o'clock. And we do our budget meeting on the front end, take a brief recess, have some food, and then do our board meeting afterwards. The 13th might be right before we get everything done. I think I can still talk intelligently to you about where we're at from a budget perspective. So if you want to do it that day, that's great. If you want to wait and do it at a later date when we have a little bit more information from the schools, then I would say, looking at another date, we could even wait until April, because we're going to have to move. Well, we don't have to. If the board chooses, we would like to move the April meeting date due to spring break being the time when we have our board meeting regularly scheduled. Would you like to do sir? And so what we may want to do is to take a look at, if you were to go the week before spring break, that would be April 3rd, wouldn't it be? It's the 10th, the 10th Easter, right? Easter Monday. So April 3rd, we could back the board meeting up to that date, do our budget process there too. That would still be in time for me to work with the commissioners on the local side, but give you guys the latest information we have on the budget.
Sounds pretty reasonable.
Let's do that. So April 3rd, 3 o'clock.
If you don't mind, we'll just combine items 5 and 6. I think you need action, Mr. Chair, to go ahead and change the meeting day. But if that's the pleasure of the board, what we would do is start at 3 o'clock. That's right, Ms. Page. And then go ahead and do that 3-hour session or so, take a brief break to eat, and then do our board meeting afterwards. It's going to be an important budget conversation this year, given that we're going to fall off the ESSER cliff and we're going to need some local support. So we're going to have to be, I think, having some real in-depth conversation about it.
So we'll be looking for a motion to move that meeting.
I'll make a motion to move the April meeting to April 3rd.
All right, I have a motion and I have a second.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Moving now under old business. First item we have here is a construction update. Dr. Swanson.
All right. For several months now, I've been giving you guys updates on the Polk County High School HVAC situation. There's times where I feel like we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I do want you to hear this message from me this go around. This project is this close to being completely closed out. Brady is really working hard, working well with me to try to resolve some nitpicky issues. I'll be frank with you, I'm holding a hard line on our roof and making sure that our roof is completely secured before I'm willing to release retainage. If in the grand scheme of this project, I do want the board to hear that they have been fantastic and have given a lot of due diligence and attention to that high school and taking good care of us. The HVAC system is working wonderfully and as designed. It's just we're being stubborn about this roof issue and making sure that it gets absolutely taken care of. There is $151,000 in retainage that we are holding on to until that is secured. So we haven't drawn any hard lines in the sand as of yet because Brady has been so willing to work so well with us. If that situation changes, we'll certainly update you, but I wanted you to hear what the status was on where we are with the HVAC project.
What's the roof issue?
There are 2 remaining leaks, one very small that is on the sort of the main building side of things. That one's a minor issue. We know what it is. We'll get it taken care of in this next batch, probably Thursday of this week. The gym on what would be the visiting side during basketball season, but the main home side of the gym during volleyball season, that side has some leaking around the ductwork in one of the penetrations that they are still hunting down and trying to shore up. So until that gets resolved to a satisfactory level, we're holding on to that retainage until then.
And the gym floor is still good?
Gym floors are still good. Yep. Through a lot of extra attention, love, and care, we've been able to hang on to those and keep them in good shape. So everything's good on that end. So that is the Polk County High School project. The other one is tomorrow's a big day. The Tryon Elementary School pre-K project, the expansion. Tomorrow, Valentine's Day, it's fitting. Hopefully we have at least 3 bidders show up with a Valentine's Day card and a bid for us. So we'll see what happens as things go on. That bidding will take place from 1 to 2 o'clock tomorrow under sealed bid. At 2, we will have our committee in place to evaluate those bids. And then we'll hopefully be able to determine the apparent low bidder at that time. At that point, we'll reconcile that apparent low bidder against the bid scope and project, make sure they actually bid on the things they said they were going to. And if all that is satisfactory on the other end, we are looking forward to breaking ground in March. So really excited about getting that project up and going. I do want you to hear that in what I feel like is an unlikely event, but in the unlikely event that we do not have 3 bidders, we simply restart the process again. So we'll have to go out to another 4-week cycle of advertising through local media outlets and putting it back out for bid again. I do not think that will be the case. I've had great communication from a lot of GCs, and so I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Good. Questions for Dr. Swanson? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. The next item under old business is the Allen Peoples recognition. Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to let you know that I was fortunate to go down to the JDL Track Center in Winston-Salem to witness Mr. Peoples receiving what I would say is one of the biggest honors any coach in this state can receive. He was elected to the Track and Field Hall of Fame. And when you go down to the middle part of the state and you watch people flock to Mr. Peoples, you realize what an impact he's had on track, not just here at Polk County or even in Western North Carolina. Mr. Peoples' name is widely known across the state. As an individual who has promoted, deeply cared for those athletes and made sure that track is elevated to the position that it is. I would also say that he has been an absolutely incredible coach for us. He would get kids out that wouldn't participate in anything else, and they would come out to track and be a part of that. If you tallied up our state championships over the years, I'll give you 2 guesses at who's got the most state championships. The first one doesn't count, but they're track athletes that have the most. So I think that honor and award was very fitting. I was awfully proud to be there on behalf of Polk County Schools to be with Mr. Peoples when he received that award. In that vein, we've also had a lot of community members approach us and some staff members approach us as well, former athletes that really would like to recognize Mr. Peoples in some type of way, shape, or form for the future, for posterity. And so what I would propose to the board at this point would be to on the end of the track area where the high jump pit is, not the pole vault pit, the high jump pit down there below the end zone, right in front of the concession stand area. If you remember, they'll put a big mat there where they high jump, and it's a curved asphalt setting out in front of that where they run up to the high jump. We would like to paint Allen Peoples Track right there on that, so that anybody who comes in and participates in track meets would see Mr. Peoples' name. It's not on the lanes on the track, so it wouldn't necessarily be distracting for those kinds of things, but we feel like that would be a fitting honor for Mr. Peoples for that to be there in that setting. Certainly that's up to the board. I know how we've had discussions over time about naming things and those kinds of things, but I think in this particular situation, we feel as an administration that that's warranted in this situation, and we'd like to do that for Mr. Peoples. Up to the board whether or not you want us to do so.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Let's do it.
I think he's earned it.
It fits under your policy.
Okay, if everybody is on board, I'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval.
I'll make a motion that we accept the track naming of Mr. Allen Peoples.
That's second.
All right, a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Green, any other old business?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, I failed to get this one on there. I did talk to Mr. Williams today. He does need an answer. You know, we had talked about really thinking about this trail project. You have a copy of this again. If you'll recall, it boils down to this particular item. At where our soccer practice field is, where the student parking area back on the very bottom corner of our lot. Like if you went into Ashley Meadows driveway and went all the way to the back of Ashley Meadows, that's the side of campus I'm talking about. That's where the access to this trail is going to be. It's not currently there. So they would need us to grant them at least the ability to get on that tract of land and to create a cut through so they could have people access that trail. In addition to that, I think it's important that the board consider what type of access you would be allowing individuals when that trail is done. i.e., are you going to allow people to come park in our parking lot, get on that trail, be walking on our campus during the school day when they haven't been vetted, they haven't checked in with the office, Do you want to take the high school to take on the burden of having to check people in during the school day and make sure that they're where they need to be? Or would you rather, as a board, set up some type of restriction? Yes, we'll give you access to the trailhead, but we don't want people parking and going through our property during the school day or during school times. That's all up to you. The board, that is board property. You guys have to make a decision on A, whether you give them access, and B, if you're going to give them access, do you have any restrictions on that access? And Mr. Fagan, you can chime in if I left something else.
That's where I was headed next. So, love your comments.
So how close is the parking access area to the actual school?
So you would end up having to park, you know where the restrooms are for the soccer field? If you park down in that spot, you'd have to walk the length of the soccer practice field down to that corner, and then you'd be at the trail. There's no good place to park. And I think the property owners on the Houston Road side are not willing to allow access.
I would be a little reluctant to suggest to you that you allow access during school times.
Sir.
So I think you probably need at least that restriction. That's not far from.
Certainly administration would consider that to be, it would be awfully close to students in the parking lot area. We have students that do work release that go out at different times of day. You have students that are transitioning down to the stadium area when they take weight training with, the football program, or if PE classes take kids down there. You've got kids working all over that campus all day long, Mr. Barber and other places. Administration would be very concerned about allowing free and open access even to that part of campus during the school day. I think with the safety issues that exist in our society right now, administration would not be making that recommendation.
Would they walk on the soccer field itself?
No, there'd be a way for us to make it so they walk on the hill behind the soccer field.
Get above it.
Yeah. Right.
Is the issue the parking or just?
The issue is just access, because that trail kind of dead ends where property is. And so to get it to pass through somewhere where people could get to, really the only place they've got to do it is down there on that corner of our property, the school's property. I don't know to what extent he's talked with Ashland Meadows. I don't even think the Ashland Meadows property goes back that far. I think that's somebody else's property.
Okay, that was
How
my.
far does our property go?
I think it goes just about, what I understand, maybe 30 or 40 feet back into the woods there where he needs that access.
Might be the McIntyre.
It is the McIntyre, yeah, that's right.
I just think you need to really carefully plan the easement for whatever restrictions you feel appropriate. But if you don't just limit it to non-school hours, then how are you gonna break it down?
To me, I think, what we've done in the past with things like the tennis courts, with the track itself, when we're not in school, people can use those facilities. Polk County Schools has always been very generous to the community, in my opinion, about allowing people to use our facilities. We don't go chase people off the playgrounds, right? I mean, we don't. If you're down at Forbes and somebody happened to get on the playground, we're not the Gestapo going down there trying to get them off there. If people want to come and walk around the track at the high school, they've been able to do that. But certainly you don't want them there during the school day when you have that concern about mingling with kids. I think parents believe that when they send their kids to school, that type of unfettered access by the public is not going to be allowed. So I think we'd be remiss as a board to approve anything less than.
What road is that? Is it coming from Houston?
Well, I think you'd have to be very clear about having some type of chain or something up there, be very clear about the signs. But that's all things you have to put in the easement. How we communicate to people. That's not the case.
Hadley off of Houston.
So show us where we're talking about it.
So this would be the easement they're asking for.
Halfway.
Yep, the trail itself actually picks up in this area. And so to access it would be through here.
And I mean, there are ways off from getting the land cleared. I think Adrian Hammond went back there one day to try to see if she could make the trail connect with what they had. It's all kinds of thickets and nastiness. So they've got some work to do before they even get it cleared off to be an access point. But it's basically landlocked if we don't give them that access. They wouldn't be able to access it probably any other way, which is why he came to us.
And are we anticipating using that we've talked about cross country?
Certainly you could use that as a cross country. Again, it'd have to be vetted by
Right.
the athletics department and make sure it was okay. But that's another option. They did the same thing in the middle school where they built the trails in the middle school. We were able to use that for cross country.
I will say that's one thing that we don't do right now is have cross country events here.
That's correct.
Right.
Because we don't have it.
That's right.
Yep.
That'd be pretty steep.
Yep,
That'd be tough, I think.
that will get tough.
That'd be tough.
They'll wish we didn't offer cross-country here.
Maybe become on the soccer field.
Yeah.
Access
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
to
the
do any work into that area.
That's correct.
So any type of machinery or trucks or anything would be coming through our parking lot.
Yep.
That would damage our asphalt and our soccer field access.
Yeah, I think they can work from the other side, Judy, and the equipment they've been using is pretty small. I haven't seen them do anything really major because they're trying to not damage the land. So I think anything they needed to get through, they could probably get through here. And it wouldn't be any different than our big mowers or big trucks going in there necessarily. But I do think you can see very clearly, if they're gonna allow that access, these people have to park here. Or they're gonna have to park up there because they gotta get to this corner of the property.
At least include fine.
You know, the other thing we could do is if y'all are a little bit hesitant, we can have, Mr. Williams come back next month and have him have a really in-depth. We need to know exactly these details. If you want administration to work up some answers to some questions you guys might have, we're happy to do that too.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Plus
Is
you
there
can think
enough
about what
land to make
restrictions
a
we want.
parking area specifically for that on the side of the soccer field?
I think, yeah, I don't know that they thought through all that, Ms. Gibbs. I think their initial was just, can we even get it broken through to a place where people could access it? So they're worried about just getting the trail established first.
So there's just.
You reveal
Like,
Ashley
having
Meadows, is
access
that? Yeah, that's a long way from there.
It is not. However, if you remember when he presented to us, if you remember, I think I should say he, it's them. They've beaten their head against the wall with other people. And now they're down to us. They realized this was not a perfect option, but this is what we did. So why don't I reach out to Mr. Williams and see if he will come back? That sounds like where y'all are headed. If you will come back and have a conversation with us in March and we can make a better decision then.
That would look like.
I would.
Okay.
I think that.
I like to see some time, days.
And maybe he'll have a little bit more detail about that. And we can kind of share our concerns with him and then he can tell us, how he would approach that or how he might deal with that, or they might deal with that. I keep saying he, it's they, it's the group. So, all right.
If they could kind of have like our picture there, draw out kind of lines of
Right.
where they're
Okay.
planning on.
I will make it a point to meet with Mr. Williamson and have those conversations so that he'll be ready for us when we get together in March.
Yep.
Okay.
Very good. Any other old business, Mr. Green?
No old business. So, oh yes, I do have one last thing, and this is more of just kind of making you aware. Because we're moving our calendar back and we hope that we'll get exams done before the holidays. If you'll recall, typically the high school has a turnaround day during the semester that we allow them to not have students so they can get their schedules done, get everything kind of ramped back up again. As a former high school principal, I can tell you that day is sorely needed. Also, we get into a situation where the last day of testing is kind of a makeup free-for-all day and not many kids come at all on that day. And so what I'd like to do is rather than put another day on the calendar that's a work day, right after we get back in January, which is when the new semester will start, I want to, as an administration, give the high school permission to move that retesting day or that last day to that next day we come back, which that means there's not going to be a ton of kids and they can get all their turnover done on that particular day, if that makes sense. So no action for y'all to take. It would just be allowing us to shift that schedule a little bit and putting that last day on the next semester so they can have that day in your day. Does that make sense to everybody? And you guys know it because I hear the calls. What are these kids doing out here at Taco Bell today? Well, it's a testing day. They got done with testing. So that way we're not interrupting the education of the elementary or the middle, which is something we hear from on their side that they don't like missing that day. So if it's okay with the board, that's how I'm going to treat that particular situation. Okay. Okay. On to yeah. Now I'm good with it.
Then we'll move on to new business.
New business. Yeah, absolutely. So I did want to say thank you to everybody who attended this Saturday. This is unofficial results, so I'd appreciate it if you let us get all of our tallies together. We appeared to have grossed $67,000 in one night. That's incredible. I mean, incredible. Now we've got some expenses. Anytime you serve that kind of meal and you go to that type of venue, you're going to have some expenses. And I think we'll probably get in the neighborhood of our target, which was 50 grand by the time everything's said and done. Folks, making that kind of money for kids on one night is tremendous. So I just want to say thank you to those who attended. And I want to make sure that if you see any of those donors, any of those people out there, please tell them we said thank you on behalf of our students. We'll be doing a PC 4K article, sending that out. And I think the idea going forward will be to offer maybe a lower level fundraiser this next year so that families can be involved. This one was kind of higher end. When you're charging that kind of money for a table and a ticket, it's going to make some people not be able to attend. So I think we need to also offer, you know, people like Aaron Green, when he was growing up, that could go to a fundraiser, because we do have middle income, lower middle income people who still want to contribute, who still want to donate and be a part of a fundraiser for their schools. So our idea was to do this one year, and on the alternating year, do something that's more family oriented, go to Harmon Field, have a big carnival festival, and then people can do maybe some low level fundraising on that side. So just can't say enough about this community and what a tremendous amount of support we receive from businesses, organizations, and the people there. So board members that were there want to comment, they can, but I just thought that was worth mentioning tonight, that PC Polk was.
Can't say much more than that. It was pretty awesome.
Very nice.
To watch people was amazing to me.
Did we get some bad feedback about folks that weren't able to participate with that? Is that what you're saying about as far as doing another type?
I think when we did it before, the question, because when we started opening up tables and tickets, I mean, it's sold like that, you know, we're done. And so I think people got frustrated by that. But what you don't want to do is oversell and not have a good experience for the people who are coming. And so this was kind of my idea that if you do have people who, teachers, for example, principals, for example, you know, I didn't want them coming and having to spend their hard-earned money. Maybe they wanted to. So let's give them an opportunity at a lower level to do those things where they don't have to pay that much money for a table or that much money for a ticket, but they can contribute in a meaningful way. So yeah, it's to address some of that. It wasn't really a complaint, more of, oh, I wanted to be a part of that. You know, a little more disappointing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some people that were there at the initial one that couldn't get tickets because it sold out so fast.
Right. Yeah. The other thing I think we'll work with the equestrian center, if we can ever get into that third floor of that building, it'll be more space. And I think it would allow us to sell some more tickets and maybe make a little bit more money, which would be awesome. But we're constantly working on trying to make that event bigger and better. But one of the good things about that event is that it's small and is the folks who have the means and those kinds of things. So,
New business.
Lambert's retirement celebration will be from 5:30 to 7 p.m. on February the 28th. Certainly understand y'all are busy folks, but Lambert Ridings has been a tremendous transportation director for us over the years. And I just wanted to make sure you guys had that date. February the 28th, 5:30 to 7 p.m. Drop in at the bus garage.
You send that in an email to
So
I was thinking you had, but I don't have it on my calendar, so maybe you didn't.
I don't think we have yet. I think we just got it nailed down about a week ago.
We just talked about it.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, that's all the new business I have at this time.
All right, so information presented to the board. We have the January Head Start Policy Council minutes, January pre-school monthly report, the pre-K financial report, the monthly financial report, the monthly credit card report. There's an optional teacher work day on February 17th. NCSBA is offering optional board training. They had Spring Law Conference virtual event on March 23rd to the 24th. This time we now are moving on to public input. I do not have anybody signed up for public input, but you have been very gracious with your time and very patient with us. Is there anything you would like to say?
No, care what.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for being here. With that being said, I will be looking for a motion to move into closed session for purposes of discussing personnel, attorney-client privilege.
So moved. A second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0.